I'm here with the Reverend Dr. Jae Lee. Thank you for making time to chat with me and to share your wisdom with our class. It's really a gift to be able to have this time. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Wonderful. So, just to start, tell me about how you came to the Christian faith. Were you raised in the Christian faith? Did a friend invite you? What's your background?
Well, Mark, I'm a lifelong Methodist, as I was born to a Korean Methodist pastor's family. Out of five children, I am a third one there. Growing up, Methodist church was not a bad thing. Actually, it was a blessing because it shaped my life's perspectives in Christian ways, more particularly in the Wesleyan ways. And I have four siblings, and one of them is an ordained Korean Methodist pastor who currently teaches at Methodist Theological University in Seoul, South Korea. Yeah,
Wow, so
so
this is almost the family business for you.
but as a young a child, I never thought about being a pastor because I observed my father very closely, and I learned that it is a daunting job. It's a very hard, ministry. He served about 1,000 membership church in Seoul, Korea, and that's why I thought that it is important to be a good lay person to support my pastor in somehow through my journey, God, I sensed God's calling and I responded to God's calling with my faith. So here I am as a United Methodist minister for over
Wonderful.
20 some years. Yes.
Well, I and everybody in the Western North Carolina Conference who knows you, we're thankful that you responded yes and grateful for your ministry as a pastor, now as a district superintendent. What's from your perspective, what's the best way for us to understand evangelism?
Hmm. I believe evangelism is to believe and share the good news of God's love toward all people through Jesus Christ. In Methodist ways, Christian faith is about growing toward perfection in love. And our faith journey is not only personal, but also social and communal all the time. That's why we Methodists, we always seek social holiness. That means faith sharing as we live together with one another is mandatory for all Methodists.
I appreciate the Methodist emphasis you're putting on this, because we want to live faithfully into this uh, identity that we have. Um, and now you're doing that in a wonderful way in the Smoky Mountain District. Tell us more about this effort in Wesleyan evangelism and what does it look like?
I believe that evangelism in the Wesleyan tradition begins with a genuine heart of love for God and others. Wesleyan tradition emphasizes grace upon grace. So, grace is not a superficial or an abstract word for simply goodness. Um, Instead, grace is God's abundant, forgiving, and free gift of love without any conditions. So grace is real and vivid based on God's unconditional love for all human beings. In the Smoky Mountain, we have a town, city named Murphy. So in order to get there and visit churches in Murphy area, I have to drive a long, curvy, but beautiful way. To get there, I pass by many conservative churches in the mountain communities of the Smoky Mountain District. One church has a big outdoor sign saying hell or heaven. To me, it is not good news. It is not an invitation to Christian living. Instead, it is a coercing and even threatening message from the church. Evangelism in the Wesleyan tradition is to engage with others without judgment, share our faith life, and invite others with Christ's love and grace. In my context here in the mountain communities, we are surrounded by very conservative churches and mountain culture. Wesleyan evangelism is essential and unique for our mountain people and mountain communities. So Wesleyan evangelism is the good news of God who loves all people and even all creation.
Yeah.
So in that sense, it is very unique for the whole communities, not only Methodist society, but whole community from our own tradition.
Yeah. So from your vantage point as a district superintendent and missional strategist, could you think of one particular example of where you see this happening? Perhaps something that really energizes you, excites you, gives you hope.
Well, when I came to the Smoky Mountain District, first year, I basically listened to the voices of the lay leaders and our clergy persons as we listen to our people as we have a new appointment. So I did the same thing. And I kind of a sense that we need to emphasize Wesleyan evangelism. In a sense, I sense that many people, not only the lay leaders, but also some clergy members, they have some negative images about evangelism. So I tried to kind of thought about and if we can have some Wesleyan evangelism movement in the Smoky Mountain district,
Mm-hmm.
I thought that it would be very meaningful for our local churches. Well, Mark, let me briefly introduce my own context here in the Smoky Mountain.
Yeah.
Um, we are a homogeneous community. That means we are all white dominant community, except for one or two Native American churches. Actually, one has a very particular name, Cherokee United Methodist Church, and the other one has Olivet, but many of them are Native Americans. But other than we are all homogeneous community with white people. Secondly, we are surrounded by very conservative denominational churches. And also mountain communities are uh, very unique. They have their own ways of living. Some people say that they are very narrow-minded, but I do not agree with that. But I know some people are very determined. They have their own way. And
That's a
then
good way to put it. Yeah.
finally, as you know, United Methodist Church has declined for the last 50 years. So these are my context.
Sure. So,
So for evangelism movement in the district, um, I decided to invite an ethnic minority leader who has different perspectives on faith practice, church growth, and Wesleyan evangelism. And I try to kind of find a person who has both theological, academic, and practitioner background. So we had a 3-day evangelism conference, and then we had a break, and we encouraged them, give them kind of a brainstorming time so that they can practice what they learned. And then finally, we gathered together for reflections and fellowship. So it took about, we've tried to follow the church season. So, for example, we started the 3-day evangelism conference in October, and then we gave the time to practice during the Advent season. And then following a year in the winter season, we gathered together for reflections and also fellowship among us so that we want to encourage one another and listen to one another and what they did during the Advent season, what worked or what did not work. So we try to do that. And then we repeat it again. We had a spring session, and then we encourage them to practice their evangelistic effort during the Lenten season and Easter season, and then we gather together after Easter. We shared what they did, what they practiced, and then what worked or what did not work, and we also encouraged one another. So it took about 18 months for us to practice this way, and uh, several things came out of that practices, but we decided to call ourselves free range Methodist. So as we are familiar with free range eggs, we try to kind of our clergy members, we empower our lay people and then let them go and share their own faith with their families and friends and relatives, associates and neighbors and kids, so that and then they celebrate, and we trust in one another whatever they do. We invited them to practice with a more friendly way, with more invitational way, not pushing others. Rather, we invite and just introduce and share their own practices and living. So it is kind of a fun together. And I realized that Wesleyan evangelism, the Methodists always we emphasize mission and evangelism together. And I kind of encourage them, well, in our evangelism or in our missions, there is no string in the Wesleyan evangelism. We do not want to just to grow our church, though that's not our focus. We just want to share the love of God and grace of the Lord with our neighbors, with our friends and families. That way, they may see our genuine hearts for them and for God. And again, many people in the very beginning, I can sense that they have negative images about evangelism due to TV evangelist or some coercing ways of evangelism or political connection with evangelicals in our communities. So at least I believe that we overcame those, negativities about evangelism. So that was very helpful. And I believe that we must renew and reclaim Wesleyan evangelism for today's people and for our own denomination, the United Methodist Church, because we love this church community together. Some people say that, oh, well, evangelism is not our language. We are more moderate and progressive denomination. And I talk to them that, well, I do not agree with that. Evangelism belongs to every Christian believers. We must have that passionate heart. And as a DS, I had a privilege to be at St. Simon's Island. In January, every year we have a DS consultation over there. And while I was there, I visited Fort Frederica. Mark, I don't know if you have ever been visited there. And it was a fascinating place. I
I've
did not
heard of
know
it, but I've never been there. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you must be there because Charles Wesley stayed there for a very short time, and after his leaving, actually his brother John Wesley came by there and stayed some.
Right.
I kind of learned that it was a very poor living condition, and Charles and John Wesley, they were very well educated and kind of a middle class and clergy people. I don't know exactly about Charles if he was ordained. He may not, right? He was more musician, but they were very evangelistic and they had a great heart for the people and especially Native Americans. But Charles ran away from Fort Frederica, and even John Wesley, he practices his ministry in Savannah and also Fort Frederica. and he experienced a total failure as a missionary.
Right.
But I believe that they learned a lot and grew a lot in God's grace through their failing experience in Georgia. And then later, they deepened their relationship. And especially John Wesley, he developed a more evangelistic way of sharing his own faith with others.
Yeah.
That's why he was not limited inside a church. And as we know, he preached on the market space, a market, I mean, the square, and then in prison and on the street, wherever there's opportunities, he shared the good news.
Right.
And I believe that that is the beginning of our Wesleyan evangelism. So anyway, so we had a great time together, and I believe that this will be ongoing process in the Smoky Mountain District.
We have experiments, we try some successes, some maybe not. Hate to use the word failure, but some things work better than others, and then we learn from it, and it's an iterative process, right?
That's correct. Yes.
So I'm hearing you talk about the importance of knowing who we are as Methodists, our theology, our history, our identity. I'm also hearing you talk about the importance of knowing our immediate culture and
Mm,
context, who the people are, what their tendencies are, how they go about things. And I like the way you said, instead of just putting them in the label of conservative exclusively, to say they're very determined in how they want to live their life, right? So what is the unique way that Wesleyan theology, a United Methodist way of church, how does that connect with this particular cultural context? And I think that's part of the task of the church,
mhm,
clergy and laity together, to figure out how to share the good news.
mm. Yeah, that's an excellent question. And I kind of sense that we have a kind of a tendency that some pastors or some lay people, they emphasize evangelistic efforts. Then we consider them, oh, they are conservatives or they are evangelists. And so we need to kind of renew our own heritage, our proud heritage of evangelist for working toward for social holiness. So it is not only my personal salvation. Our faith in the Methodism is about we are all saved together because I care for you. I love you. I believe that that must be the beginning of our evangelism. It is not about judging others. Rather, I just want to express my love to you. That way, we share the good news of Jesus Christ and live that faith in our daily lives. That way, we truly live the word in our daily lives. And I believe that that is the very important practice of Wesleyan evangelism. It's not about, I mean, putting the big sign out there, or I mean, visiting our neighbors on Saturday morning and knock on the door in the very early morning and say that, oh, do you believe in God? Rather, we love them and showing our genuine concerns. If we have anyone who have lost their loved ones, we may send some sweet card and bring some homemade dessert or some food and share how much we love them, how much they are important in our living, in our communities together. And I believe that that's true and living Wesleyan evangelism for today.
Dr. Lee, thank you so much for taking time to talk with me and to share this with our class at Duke Advanced Course of Study. This is a real gift, your time and wisdom. Best of all, your heart for Jesus. And I'm really thankful for you. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Mark, for your contribution and your help and your teaching for our local pastors. I am so grateful for your ministries.